My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Of course, Jesus is referring primarily to the law, which is a very heavy burden for the Israelites to keep. And they were burdened, say, I can't keep it, and I can't keep it. Like, look what Paul said in Romans chapter 7. He's very honest there when he talks about how the law became a burden for him. That which was meant to give life brought death. Romans chapter 7. He says, verse 15, what I'm doing I don't understand. I'm not practicing what I'd like to do, but I'm doing the very thing I hate. Haven't we all had that experience where very often I want to do the right thing. I always want to do the right thing, and I end up doing something which afterwards I say, boy, why in the world did I do that? I hate it. And yet I happen to do it. Why in the world did I say it like that? I didn't want to say it like that. I wanted to say it in a loving, gentle way, but I didn't turn out like that. I ended up saying or doing things which I hate. Well, if I acknowledge that I hate that, then I'm acknowledging, verse 16, that the law is good. So then I recognize that it's not me doing it, it's this sin in my flesh that's doing it because I haven't got rid of my flesh yet. And so verse 19, the good that I want, I don't do, but I practice the very evil that I hate. So I find this principle, verse 21, within me, and all of us will acknowledge this, that the one who wants to do good, I joyfully concur, verse 22, with the law of God in the inner man. Don't you? I believe you do. I believe you read the Bible and say, it's absolutely right, that's the way I want to live. But I find a different law in my members, which is making me a prisoner sometimes and making me do things which I don't want to do, or which I regret as soon as I've done it, regret as soon as I've said it. And it's from such a man that a cry comes out, oh, wretched man that I am. Now I want to tell you, to me that statement is one of the marks of the fact that a person is really born again. A person who's not born again can say something and do something and never say, oh, wretched man that I am. Why in the world did I do that? Why in the world did I say it like that? If you never say it, never have that type of feeling, I want to say you're probably not born again at all. But if you had that feeling, oh, wretched person, why in the world did I do it like that? Why in the world did I respond like that? That is one of the clearest indications that you're born again. But that can be a burden where the devil fools you. You say, see, this proves that you're not saved. No, it proves that you are saved. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel like that at all. You're sensitive. It means you don't have leprosy. A pinprick, you feel it. People with leprosy, they don't feel anything. You can poke them with a nail, they won't feel it. But you're feeling a small thing. And the one mark of growth in the Lord is this, that even a small little thing, one word, makes you feel like that, oh, wretched man that I am. So, don't let that burden you. So he says, well, what am I going to do? I want to thank God through Jesus Christ because I realize that in my mind, verse 25, it's very important to understand this verse. In my mind, I've decided I'm going to serve the law of God wholeheartedly, and that includes the Sermon on the Mount. I have decided in my life I want to be completely free from anger. I want to be completely free from lusting. I want to be completely free from any bitterness and complaining against anybody in the world. I want to be totally free from hating those who have hurt me, from having an unforgiving spirit towards anybody in the world, from wishing evil towards any human being. I want to be completely free. And if some of these times the other thoughts come up, I'm going to reject them. Because in my flesh, verse 25, I'm still serving the law of sin. So these other thoughts and feelings sometimes come up. So what shall I do then? Here my mind is determined to live for God, and these other things come up, and then I get burdened. Oh, I'm such a rotten person. You should not be burdened. It says in the next verse, it's unfortunate that there's a chapter division between that and Romans 8, verse 1. Your mind, you're serving God, and with your flesh, you're serving the law of sin. Fine. But there's no condemnation. You think there should be condemnation if your flesh is serving the law of sin. No. Therefore means because of the previous verse. Well, how in the world can there be no condemnation when I'm serving the law of sin with my flesh? Because with my mind, I'm serving the law of God. Because God sees that deep down in my mind, I only want to please Him. Do you feel like that? Then there'll be no condemnation for you. You should not condemn yourself. A lot of burdens come through condemning yourself. That's why I want you to free you from condemnation, free you from self-condemnation. I pray that every single person sitting here, if you're really born again and you love the Lord and you want to please Him, will never have condemnation, self-condemnation again for the rest of your life. I lived with a lot of self-condemnation for years after I was born again. And I thought I was being spiritual because I felt so condemned about. But it hindered me from growing because in all those years I never got any victory over sin. And I'll tell you this, you will not get victory over sin if you keep on condemning yourself. You need to recognize that becoming like Christ is a matter of growth. It's not sudden. It's not that one day you're a sinner and the next day you're like Christ. You are not. There's a progression as you judge yourself. And all those years, your flesh will serve the law of sin. But your mind will serve the law of God. Your mind is set on pleasing God. And in a sense, you can say, that wasn't me. That was my flesh that made me do that. But I hate it, and one proof of it I hate it is I immediately confess it to God. That's one proof that you hate it. And if you hurt another person, you immediately go and ask forgiveness from that person. That's a proof that you hate it. A person who's not born again doesn't feel like that. He just continues, oh, well, I'm like that. You know, you can take this word like, well, my flesh will serve the law of sin and completely ignore all the wrong things you do. No. A person whose mind is set on the law of God will immediately confess his sin to God and immediately ask forgiveness from the one he's hurt, but he will not condemn himself. He'll say, Romans 8:1, there is no condemnation because I'm in Christ. And I'm not living after the flesh. I'm seeking to please the law of God.